pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. USA! 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 USA!
All right, everyone. John Hugo!
Sick and tired of establishment Republicans. They worked harder against me than the Democrats in many ways, and they just won't support anyone. You know, 2 years ago, they had this purge of the Republican State Committee where they took out 29 people and tried to replace them with liberal Republicans, and many people here, even here right today, were targeted, and it's wrong. They spent about $3 million of dark money, and yet we've got no money for elections. If you go to the Mass GOP website, you know what's missing? A candidate section. That's their only job, is to get people elected, and they have no candidate section. That's how bad it is. You know, 18 years ago when I ran for the Senate, I could link my website, johnhugo.com, to the state committee website. And now there's nothing. There's nothing there. And this shows how these people are thinking. We've got 82% of the races unopposed, and they won't even support the candidates that are actually running. And that's just too bad. Now, we've had some speakers here that have differences of opinion. I'm glad we had Samson and Diana, and different points of view. Personally, I like Jeff Deal, and I'm supporting him 100%.
Jeff Deal!
I think he is the real deal, and I like Jay McMahon too. And like me, they're running as conservatives, and we killed it at the convention. Look at all the liberals and what happened to them. Like I said, I got 64% of the vote. Jeff Deal, with two opponents, got 52% of the vote. You know, Charlie Baker, he backed Beth Lindstrom. She got 15% of the vote. Dr. Lively got 36. So that shows how weak Baker really is when you think about it. You know, he won by 40,000 votes last time. That's not a big margin. He thinks Democrats are going to put him over the top, and maybe they will. But about half the Republican Party is going to sit on their hands this election. I really think that, as far as he's concerned. That's why I'm only dealing with Jeff Deal and Jay McMahon, two solid conservatives who rocked it, won the convention, and you know, even though they wanted the convention, they still backed, the powers that be still try to back their opponents, and they killed it too. They showed everybody, you know, we're going to have candidates that represent us, no longer Democrat-like. Conservative Republicans have the best message, and I'm proud to be a conservative. For example, I have been endorsed by the NRA and the Gun Owners Action League. I support our Second Amendment rights, which are absolutely under attack. You know, I've got an A rating from both of them, which I'm proud of. Mass Citizens for Life has endorsed me. Will make 20,000 calls for me this weekend. And yes, we've got 120,000 robocalls going out. We've got a good organization. We've got a great grassroots organization. I'd like to single out Joyce Kelly over there, who's the chairwoman of the Revere Republicans. One of the people targeted by Charlie, and they didn't stand a chance of knocking her off. I'll tell you that right now. She kicked Charlie's butt, and we're glad to have her. There you go.
She killed him.
And when I found out he was running as a Republican, I was like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what we need in today's society. For some reason, the old guard Republican Party is just anti-cannabis. And they don't have any real foundation for why, other than it's just been what they were born into. And a lot of younger people are waking up to the realities of the society that we live in and how cannabis is actually benefiting a lot of people. And we need Republicans to stand up and say exactly that cannabis should not be criminalized. It is helping people, and I'm very thankful that Mr. Hugo is on the correct side of history when it comes to that topic.
Well, first of all, I'm against the war on drugs. It's led to mass incarceration and even more erosion of our rights. I would like to transform the war on drugs into a war on addiction. I do support the end of cannabis prohibition because I think cannabis is a medicinal herb and has many wonderful uses, including environmental uses. It makes better concrete than we have in buildings right now. Hempcrete is wonderful. What might take a forest 500 years to grow, you can grow in a single season with hemp. So there's some, you know, John Adams said this should be a hemp nation, and all the framers of our Constitution that were farmers grew hemp. It was a great crop and should have never been made illegal in the first place. You know, it was made illegal so they could deport Mexicans during the Great Depression. And, of course, all the reefer madness and the lies by the government
It's just ridiculous. I am a member of Mass Can Normal, so just get that out there. I'm 100% pro cannabis. I think it's wonderful, and it should be legal. And I've been to places where it is legal, like the Netherlands, and nothing bad is happening there. It's just they have a cannabis coffee shop in the same building as the police station in Amsterdam. I remember I was walking by, and the cops are walking by through the smoke that's billowing out, and just good morning, very polite. It's kind of a culture shock,
But in regards to like more harmful drugs like fentanyl that's being smuggled into the country, like in the sanctuary city status.
Well, that's a good point because, you hear Democrats calling for the abolition of ICE, but do you realize that ICE last year confiscated enough fentanyl at the border to kill every single American? Yeah, I think we need to, what I think we should do is what the Portuguese have done. We should decriminalize small amounts of drugs. We're talking about possession, not distribution. So if you have a 10-day supply of heroin on you, maybe putting you in jail is not the best idea. I think going to rehab, which by the way is a lot cheaper than incarcerating someone, is a good idea. Let's be compassionate. Let's treat drug addicts as what they are. They're patients. Now, the drug dealers, that's a totally different story. Yes, they're poisoning our people, lock them up, throw away the key. That's fine. But people who go to jail for long periods of time because they're addicts, I think that's wrong.
So the things that I like and appreciate about John is that, number one, he doesn't back down. Number two, he's a fighter.
Amen.
Number three, he has principles. He's not afraid to defend those principles. He's not afraid to say he's a conservative. He's not afraid to say that he's a President Trump supporter.
Yeah.
And these qualities, that's what I like in somebody who's running for office. And yes, when I'm online, when I'm on my radio show, I push that out there. If we want change, if we want to see change, these are the types of candidates that we need to support.
Let me speak about something called nationalism real quick. It's become a dirty word in our lexicon for some reason. Nationalism is love of country. It is the idea that we should be surrounded by those who believe the same thing that we do. In this country, that means that we believe in the Constitution. It means that we believe in the Bill of Rights. It even means that we believe in equality, that everybody who is a citizen of this country it falls under the purview of the Bill of Rights. So when somebody says they're a nationalist, that means that they believe in a country of laws. It does not mean that they believe in expelling those who are a different color than you. That's white nationalism. White nationalism is the idea that we belong in a country that should just be filled with white people and everybody else should be expelled. That is not what nationalism is. That's not what President Trump was talking about. And that's not what my understanding is of the people who are standing up here today believe in nationalism.
Talk about the campaign from the very beginning. I decided I was not running as Democrat light. I'm running as a conservative, a Trump supporter, and a patriotic American, and I'm a nationalist. I'll use that word because I am a nationalist. I believe we should put America first.
Yeah!
I love our country, our flag, our veterans, and I'm not ashamed to say it. But Democrats, they're on the opposite side and the wrong side of every issue as far as I can see. And what are they talking about? They want to raise taxes by $1 trillion. That's a quote from Nancy Pelosi, and tank this wonderful economy President Trump has created, which apparently Obama now thinks he did. After talking about 1% GDP was the new normal. We're at 4.2% and growing under President Trump. He is rocking it on the economy, and I'm very proud to have him as my president.
And as far as your campaign, have you been able to have any debates with the opposing candidate?
Catherine Clark has never once ever been in a congressional debate, including when she first got elected. She has refused. She's not even putting up lawn signs. She's so arrogant that she's not campaigning. She just figures she'll win because she's a Democrat, and it's a D+18 district. And that is obnoxious. She's not even from here. She's from Connecticut, okay? I grew up in Arlington. I'm from the district. I've worked hard. I've gone out and met people. She's nowhere to be seen. She goes into hiding every election cycle, and I think debate's a part of our tradition, and she just won't debate. We actually called the Democrat State Committee to arrange a debate, and they says They said they'll call us right back. Obviously, they called Clark. They called my campaign manager and told him, we have no idea how to reach Catherine Clark. That's the answer they gave us. What idiocy, you know? It's just wrong.
And I heard was it her campaign that was trying to call you guys white nationalists or?
I said I'm a nationalist, which means I'm an American and I'm proud to be an American. And her surrogates are putting out the most reprehensible stuff, like John Hugo didn't mention he was a white nationalist. So it's incidental that I'm white. Okay? When I say nationalist, I'm talking about patriotism. And they try to spin that. It's disgusting. But they do it every election cycle. They try to scare people. They tell minorities Republicans want to, do terrible things to them. Every 4 years, it's the same thing. I think one of the biggest threats to their little status quo right now is this walk-away movement, because people are getting sick and tired of the same drum roll every 4 years. And, Trump is killing it on the economy right now. The minority unemployment is the lowest it's ever been. And, people are making more money, wages are up, the economy is booming, and it's kind of hard to argue with success, and a lot of people do vote their wallet.
And did the media, because it'd be a big issue for me, I know being a journalist, I'd want to know if there were people who were white nationalists running for Congress and trying to influence government. Did the media around here, or has any media reached out to you to find out about your views?
Well, I've done a lot of media, but I wouldn't allow anybody who espoused those views to be anywhere near my campaign. I think it's disgusting. If you read my platform, I say on it, there's only one race, the human race. That's the only race I recognize. We all have the same DNA. We're all 99.9% the same. We should focus on what we have in common, not these petty little differences. People who are from an area closer to the equator might have darker skin. If you up by the North Pole, you might have lighter skin, but we all know that we're all the same race. We all eventually came from Africa, and just stop it. I'm so sick and tired of racial arsonists like your Jesse Jacksons and your Al Sharptons who are just race baiters. That's how they make a living. Most people, I think you'll agree, especially in our generation, we're not racist at all. You see the little kids, they play together. They don't know the difference. You put the kids together, they play naturally, and it is not helpful to be always dividing people into groups. We're all humans. We're all the same, and we should just learn to stop talking like that. It's divisive, but the Democrats think it's a strategy that works for them. Perhaps it has in the past. I think people are wising up. I really do.
So there's no mainstream publications that have reached out to you to get any comment about that?
About that? No, this is just what the campaigns do behind the scenes. They have their surrogates say horrible things about you, spread it around on the internet, and then if they're called on it, then they just deny it or say it's an overzealous campaign official. You know how it goes. So let the mud fly. It's not going to stick to me. People know what my campaign is all about. And we have a very diverse group of people, and we have some wonderful people working here. We've organized all the town and city committees, and we've got a great ground game, and we're going to take the fight to Catherine Clark, even if she doesn't want to debate. But I do think the media should be calling her to task. It's not right that she has never once debated. It's our tradition as Americans, every 2 years, I think, don't you, that there should be a debate, really and truly.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to be able to hash out the ideas. I mean, unless you want to just keep it about the race baiting and have nobody really try to focus on the problems that are actually, hurting the country or your community.
And we have serious problems, and they need to be addressed, but this is what the Democrats do. They don't have a good philosophy. Nancy Pelosi says we're going to raise taxes by $1 trillion, which would tank the economy. That's not a platform. And yes, they hate Trump. All hate Trump 24/7. I mean, nobody's as bad as they make this poor guy out to be. I can't imagine what it's like to be just constantly bombarded. You go to a station like MSNBC, if they have 8 stories, 7 of them are anti-Trump. This guy, he's going to get credit for nothing. We could have 10%, GDP, and they wouldn't give him credit for it. So it's just very one-sided. I think 94% of the media tend to lean liberal, and that's too bad. And I'm not talking classical liberalism, which is a good thing. This modern leftism is really what it is.
Communism?
Well, socialism at least, and that tends to lead to communism. I mean, look around the world. Where has socialism ever worked? We had the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. How many millions were killed? Tens of millions, right? The Nazis were National Socialists. They weren't on the right, they were on the left, right? National Socialists. They killed, 11 million people? Venezuela used to be an oil-rich country. Socialists took over, and now it's a dictatorship. They've destroyed Venezuela. Socialism hasn't worked anywhere, and yet 50% of high school students would say that socialism is a good thing because that's what they're learning in school. They're not teaching people patriotism and to love our flag and to love our country. They're teaching kids to be good little socialists. And
Now, I want to talk about my number one issue, and this is something very, very important. We have $21 trillion in debt, which means everybody here, as your share of the debt, owes $174,000, and it's going up $1 million a minute. We can't afford to be deficit spending anymore. We need a balanced budget amendment, and we need it now, because everybody is pushing this down the road. And it's like you take a credit card to pay off your other credit card, max that out, take out another credit card to pay that. The bottom's going to fall out soon. We don't want to be like what's happening in Greece right now. And 21 trillion is just an obscene amount of money. And, you know, 9 trillion of that came under the Obama administration, who created more debt than every single president before him combined. You know, this guy that they think walks on water, he was one of the worst presidents I've seen in my lifetime. He was divisive. He didn't help racial relations. I think he set them back. And the Democrat Party loves to use race. I think that's their favorite subject. Everything's racist to these people. Now, I think there's only one race, the human race. That's the only race I want to talk about. And, you know, most people I know are not racist, but boy, do they love to call everybody who disagrees with them. That's the first place they go. Racist, homophobe, Islamophobe, xenophobe, and it's like a broken record. We're the party of ideas. We have ideas. We want limited government. We want the government to keep their hand out of our pockets, because my money is my freedom, and they waste so much money in this state. We spend 4 times the national average on highways. That means 3 out of every $4 is going to graft. You know, in a year, this year we had a budget surplus. They raised taxes by $800 million. And then they would tax 90% of our income if we would let them. You know, when Elizabeth Warren was questioned on that, she wouldn't even answer how high she would raise taxes, because she'd take everything you had if she could. That's what the Democrats are doing. This is not JFK's Democrat Party. When I was a kid, they were a working class party. But now it's all this far left lunacy. And the stuff they're doing in our public schools, this we need to address. Because, you know, I'm for tolerance. I don't care who you love, who you want to be with, God bless you. But why are they bringing cross-dressers into kindergarten to have cross-dresser reading day? This is on a national program. So they're teaching kindergartners and first graders that this is considered normal behavior. They want to commingle the bathrooms now. They want 12-year-old kids to shower together. They are now teaching, and I don't want to get too graphic here, but they're teaching stuff to 12-year-olds which would get you arrested if you were doing it out on the street. It's that bad. We need to start pushing back. We need to have our priorities, and our schools need to be teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, not this social justice madness where they tell children that you don't have to be a boy or a girl, that there are 72 genders. I mean, it's scientifically stupid, and it needs to stop. Again, they call us hateful when we talk about this. It's not hate, it's science, and I believe that. So we need to take back our schools, because it's gone way, way, way too far.
So even as a libertarian, I believe that we should, one of the sole purposes of government is national defense. And a strong border falls under the idea of national defense. So that doesn't mean necessarily build a border wall. We may disagree on that.
For the wall.
He's for the wall. I'm sure I'm surrounded by tons of people who are for the wall. But to say that we should have a complete open border, like some of my so-called libertarian associates say, I think that that's dangerous and naive. Juarez is right over the border. It was at one point in time the murder capital of the murder capital of the world, and that's just over the border of El Paso. And to think that we should be able to just walk back and forth over that border without any sort of controls is it's ridiculous.
Nothing will change. And if you follow the news, right, everybody's following the news, you see what's going on on Facebook, on TV, you see what President Trump is doing, right? We're in a war. We are in a war. This is a revolution. And people don't understand that. We have thousands of people marching up towards our southern border with holding the flags of their own home countries. If this isn't a war, I don't know what it is. And President Trump has the, right, fill in the blank, and he has both hands, okay, one and the other one, right? It's true. He has them. And like a bully, what do you do with the bully? You punch them in the face hard. You hit them hard. And he's hitting them hard. He's going to have troops on the southern border. And that's what we need in Massachusetts for politicians or people that are running for office. We want politicians who have them. You have them, right? You have them.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I don't think they need to be bringing cross dressers into kindergarten. And this over-sexualization of our children, they're teaching children who are 12 years old about sodomy and oral sex. That's not shouldn't be part of the school. Let the parents teach their children that stuff. It's too much. Teach them the birds and the bees. Fine. The guy's got this. The girl's got that. This is what happens. But it's gone too far, and I think we need to push back. And that's not hate. That's just science. There's not 72 genders. There's 2 genders.
Pretty well today. I like his common sense Republican platform. It's Massachusetts, so who knows if it'll gain much momentum, but I like what he stands for. I think we need more balance, certainly here in this state, but in the nation at large. I just like what he stands for.
What issues are most concerning to you with being a Massachusetts resident, other than restoring some balance to the state?
Well, the taxation particularly. They don't call us Taxachusetts for nothing. And the war on drugs, I think, as he mentioned, as I've said for a while, has been, it's just a dreadful mess. It causes more heroin overdoses and deaths than it prevents, easily. And I think if he sticks by what he stands for, then I think that's really good. I think we need more politicians like that who view it with that more progressive attitude, as opposed to just lock them up, lock up the scum,
We really have to get behind Republicans for Congress. Democrats are now the Communist Party. I don't want to live under communism, so I hope we can all come together and support a strong conservative like John. And he's for the wall, and he's pro-life, and he's pro-freedom. So I really think he'd be a good congressman.
So you think we're headed into extreme communism then now?
Democrats win back the House, they're trying to tone down the message now, and but just wait till if they take back the House, there's going to be impeachment proceedings. They're going to come after us. They're going to take away our guns. Definitely, they're communists. I was going to say it's very interesting to me, and I think some people listening might say, "Oh, come on, you're exaggerating." There's Democrats right now going around calling themselves Democratic Socialists. So that tells you something. We did a counter-protest last week in Boston where Senator Ed Markey was there and Mayor Marty Walsh was there, 2 prominent Democrats. They were perfectly comfortable with the people walking around with the red flags and the hammer and sickles. I mean, you would think that they would actually just say something, "Oh, we don't want to be associated with this symbol." They had no problem. They're very comfortable being around it. So that's why I'm saying that. I've seen it. I was very supportive of Trump, and the media told me 2 years ago. They told us 2 years ago. We all thought Trump was probably going to lose. We had hope, but we were getting ready. We're going to go back to our jobs the next day. It's really going to suck with Clinton's president. I hope we can push back a little with the Republican Congress. But no, not them. They, the next day they're out in the streets yelling, "Resist, resist, resist." They do whatever they want. They go up to the Supreme Court, no permit. If we ever tried something, well, we don't have a permit, we get shut down right away. They could just take over the Supreme Court steps. They can go into Republican congressmen's offices and basically hold up the government. They can go into these hearings. No one complains where they're yelling and screaming during the Kavanaugh hearings, disrupting the process. They're 100%. They're going to, if they're not in power, they're going to resist. And when they're in power, they're going to make it impossible for us to push back at all.
It's very dangerous, in my opinion.
And speaking on the Fourth Amendment, the FISA warrant that was used to spy on the Trump campaign, that was kind of manipulated with foreign intelligence.
That was a palace coup by the FBI. Every one of those leadership people we're talking Strzok, Page, Comey, they should be going to jail. They tried to depose a president who was duly elected by the American people. It's an absolutely frightening thing what's going on at the top. It's the deep state and the FBI. You know, they just need to clean house because these people are bad. But I think slowly but surely the truth is coming out. Clearly there was no Russian collusion. The idea that the FBI would leak stuff to the press and then use the stories in the press to get a FISA warrant is perfectly frightening when you think about it. I mean, they've got a sordid history, the FBI in their unholy collusion with Whitey Bulger. Remember, the FBI went to Martin Luther King's wife and told her that he was having an affair on her. Why is that the FBI's job? You know, so this is nothing new, but it's really frightening, and I hope they change something.
And you know, on that, so I've always been a very libertarian-oriented Republican, and I actually worked a government think tank job and left it when they were using capturing large portions of metadata to basically spy on the American people. And I've said, conservatives largely have kind of acquiesced to authority and said it's okay for the government to spy, these FISA warrants, we need these, yet they've caught no terrorists with it. And there are two, the shoe bomber and the underwear bomber, that we know that they did not catch. And my fear in that, the reason why the Founding Fathers put strict constitutional protections on government spying is precisely what happened to Donald Trump, right? The Democrats paid for opposition research and then used that opposition research to obtain a FISA warrant, which is not a real warrant issued by a real judge, to spy on Donald Trump. And this is precisely the constitutional violations that we've warned about. I am not one of these, full-on MAGA Trump supporters. When President Trump does something wrong, I criticize him for it. When he does something right, I praise him for it, just like any other individual. But he has not done anything that would warrant an impeachment. But if they take back the House and Senate, you could see them overturning a legitimate election out of nothing more than sheer spite.
Now let's talk about my opponent, nutjob left-wing Catherine Clark. This lady is the absolute worst. She is so far left. She makes Joe Stalin look like a conservative, okay? She's calling for outright gun confiscation. She wants to spend $30 million on internet police, so, like in Europe where they go knocking on your door when they don't like what you posted on Facebook. And yeah, she's going after the First Amendment like the Democrats are. They don't believe in our First Amendment. They believe in groupthink. And if you disagree with them, then, then you're just persona non grata. And how many times do we hear the word hate used by these people? Anybody who disagrees with them is hateful. Now, I don't know two Republicans that agree on anything. We all argue with each other all the time. That's why you hear so much diversity of opinion here. But that's okay, because when we disagree with you, we try to have an intelligent discussion with you and try to win you over to our point of view. But on the other side, all they can do is call you racist, homophobe, xenophobe, Islamophobe. My goodness, you would think Donald Trump was the devil himself, the way they talk about the poor guy. 91% bad press, and he still won on Election Day. What does that tell you?